Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Finding Rachel, a podcast about a documentary film about a YouTube channel. You got it? All right. So, what's on tap today? This is episode 6, and I've had a few questions from some of the listeners over the last, week or two. It's like, Greg, where have you been? I usually upload something every week. I know I've just started to make a little bit of a return back to the internet now, to YouTube, back to work, and of course, back to podcasting because I knocked my head. I'm not going to tell you how I knocked my head. It was really quite embarrassing, but I did have to go to the doctor, and I do have a concussion. So I may be a little incoherent today. Let's see how it goes. Or it might be even better. It might be the best episode so far. That would be something, wouldn't it? Anyway, actually it would be probably be pretty easy for it to be the best episode so far. But anyway, so that's my apology in advance if I'm rambling even more than I normally do. But yeah, I'm trying to come up with a good story about how I knocked my head so hard that I got a concussion. So my boxing coach, I do not contact boxing. A couple of people said it's a boxing, right? You got knocked out. I actually don't do that kind of boxing. I do just the fitness boxing, which is really awesome, by the way. But my partner went in and talked to my coach, and he said, "Oh yeah, no, I'll start to tell people that Greg and I got into a fight, and that's how he that's how he got his concussion." It's nothing like that. Anyway, I'm not telling you how I got a concussion. It's too embarrassing. Anyway, but yeah, so I knocked my head and then walked around for a couple days, drove the car. Oh my God, I went and picked up my daughter because it's 3, 4 days before the holidays are about to start. So this is around, I don't know, December 20th or something like that. Really excited to go see my daughter again, right? So no fuzzy head was gonna stop me from going picking her up from the train station. That was a bad idea. That was a funky drive to the train station. The way and this will say something about how immersed I am in this film that I'm making. Is that I the way I started to explain the way I was feeling to my friends and my family that uh that I was like a couple frames short of a minute because those of you who know film know the more cinematic speed of film is 24 frames a second, and I felt like I was operating on maybe 20 frames a second. Anyway, I was a little lightheaded. All right. Anyway, so fast forward, I waited for a couple of days and I thought, oh man, I'm not feeling any better. I'm going to go see the doctor. Walked in and he's like, yep, you're concussed. You have a mild to moderate concussion. I'm like, oh shit. I've got all these plans for the holidays. They're all ruined. But, but the thing that's interesting is he says to me, okay, you're going to have to follow this concussion protocol, which I knew already what that was because I had other friends who'd been concussed. And it's 7 days. It's a full week, in your bedroom or in a room where you can black out all the sunlight. And I'm just like, oh my God, my holidays. I've just ruined my holidays, my family's holidays too. So I was really quite emotional about the whole thing. Anyway, but then he follows up. And what was really interesting is that he said, yeah, you're gonna be really bored. So sorry, the solution to this, the medicine, so to speak, is 7 days of pure boredom. And that kind of stuck with me. And I kind of, ambled my way home and, told my partner, I've fucked up our whole holidays. Sorry. Got into bed, blacked out the lights, and basically had like 3 days of almost solid sleep. So I didn't really have, it's not that I didn't have time to be bored, but I was just sleeping. But coming back to this point about boredom, I didn't find it boring at all, not at all, because when I started to come out of my 3 days of pure sleep, then I had like a day or two of hallucinations, and that was really quite intense. So I found it hard to close my eyes, even in a dark room, um, because I just was seeing all these images, right? So I think it was just the way for my brain to kind of kickstart again, to kind of push out all the bad stuff, maybe the hurt, to push out all the hurt, the bruise. It was working on the bruise, all these hallucinations. So anyway, I can't remember what I was hallucinating about, but it was all very vivid. Anyway, but there was a point where I knew. So after about 2 3 days after the hallucinations started to stop, I started feeling a bit better. Well, I knew I was starting to feel better, that my brain was kind of repairing itself, was was when I had uh this dream overnight, and it must have been about 4 in the morning. I had this dream that I was a stand-up comedian. And it's one of those, it wasn't a stress dream. When you have those dreams where you can't shake it, and you sometimes there can be nightmares, right? But there can be other dreams where you're obsessing. It's usually oh shit, you're going back to school, and you're forgetting to whatever your shoes, you're forgetting your pen, you're forgetting when your exam is, all this kind of stuff, right? But so it was kind of a kind of an OCD dream, but I was a stand-up comedian, and it was one of those dreams where I just kept on coming back to the main joke of the story, which was a terrible joke, which was about this really, really mean boss that I had many years ago when I lived in Boston, who I still think about, right? But he passed away about about a year and a half ago. Yeah, this is really funny material here, Greg. This is perhaps maybe why. Well, maybe it's why I should be a stand-up comedian. Anyway, it's not terribly funny. The guy passed away, but he used to eat and I'm not joking. He used to eat a burger and fries every day, or at least every day that I saw him. And he was a bit of an overbearing guy. And he used to pretty much insist that all the junior staff go with him and kind of sit around him and listen to him over lunch while he ate, yes, you guessed it, a burger and fries. So anyway, this whole dream was about me up on stage weaving this comedic tale together, and I kept on moving from this story to that story, but always coming back to the story about the my boss who had died after eating too many burgers. Anyway, so the reason why I thought that this was a good sign was because it was very kind of rhizomatic, right? In the sense that rhizomatic meaning that I was pulling from all these different stories, but adding them up. It was a bit like a Monty Python. Monty Python episodes, they go from, there's someone will come up with a random topic, and then that will serve as a transition to the next skit, right? So it was very much like that. So I think it was a way for my brain to try to say to itself, to me, does that make sense? Anyway, that okay, let's pull together all these threads of your memories, Greg. Anyway, that's I'm going to stick with that. Let's see if people buy that excuse. Anyway, the other thing that was really interesting, to try to bring it a little bit back to the topic of the day, or the subject of the podcast, is that it was I'm in a blacked out room, right? And no screen. That was one of the major things that the doctor said: no screen, no light, and yeah, boredom. Um, but but so I'm sitting there, and but he did say you can listen to podcasts, right? You can listen to some music, not a lot of bass, I guess is what he said. So I and the reason why that's important is because then before I knocked my head, the next episode I was going to do of the podcast was going to be focused on sound. And David Donnelly, who's in the film, or will be in the documentary film, who's a British musician, and hopefully he'll come on next episode. We were going to talk about sound, and we're going to talk about soundtracks and sound editing and mixing and scoring for documentary films. So I just thought it was really strange that I found, so I had all these ideas on my mind about how to talk about music, how to talk about sound in films. And all of a sudden I'm stuck in my bedroom for 7 days with only sound. Well, in addition to all these bizarre things going around, swirling around in my brain. And so I did actually write some notes down, but I don't think I'm going to talk about them today. I think I'm going to leave that for my discussion with David about sound, the significance of sound, how sound can make or break, in my opinion, any film, but plays a very particular role in documentary filmmaking. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk some more. Got some, at least one surprise guest for you today here in the on the holiday edition of Finding Rachel. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Thanks for sticking with me here on episode 6, which I've called. What are you laughing at?
Oh.
Which I've called Concussed. Now I've got a special.
Yeah, you
guest.
got bonked.
Well, as you can hear, I've got a special guest with me. Hang on, it's got to adjust the mic a little bit because I've never had someone here in the podcast studio.
In your studio?
It is a podcast studio. Here,
it is nice.
Try to speak closer to the mic.
Hello.
So anyway, it's what day is it today? It's Boxing Day today. Those of you who are in Canada or in the UK, do they have Boxing Day anywhere else? Son?
I don't know.
So this is my son. It's like family edition, isn't it? And so I thought I'd bring my son on. My daughter didn't want to do it, did she?
She's not feeling good.
She's not feeling good, but I think that she thinks I'm kind of uncool or something, but it's not.
That's well, when you have kids, it's hard to convince them to do your podcast.
Is it? Why?
I don't know.
So, well, let's get into it. And this is kind of why I wanted to bring my son on and my daughter, but I can see her in the other room. She's like throwing her hands up, coughing.
She's making a face at us.
She's pretending to cough. Anyway, the reason why I brought my son on today is because I want to talk about audiences. I want to talk about audiences for films, and particularly for documentary films, because, well, for a whole bunch of reasons. Like one of the reasons why, let me get this out quickly, okay, son. I'm just gonna. Right. It's kind of awkward. Keep on calling you son, but I don't want to send your name out there in YouTuber land. Is that I was contacted by a fellow who's kind of provisionally working with me as a producer, and he said, "Oh, Greg, there's a pitch session in a few weeks, and so you should get something ready to kind of sell the film, right?" And one of the main things that, of course, you always have to talk about is who's the audience for your film. Now, Rachel's Ghost, who you saw Rachel's Ghost this morning, right? The YouTube channel that this film is focused on. And most of the folks, I'm going to say, well, there was just a couple people on today, weren't there? But most, I would say, a vast majority of the folks, I'm trying to be nice here, who are guests on the show are over 50, let's say. Let's just say that.
When they were record collecting when they were younger, it was actually like cool. Affordable. Yeah.
No, it's not cool.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And a lot of them talk about record collecting and about how they used to have great collections and then they all sold them in the 90s. And now now they're all like, whoops.
It's like Bitcoin. They're like, if I kept all my records, I could have had like 30 grand.
That's actually a good analogy. That's good. Anyway, so just to quickly finish up that story and then we can get into it. So I need to start to think about how to pitch the film, right? Which is principally about a bunch of old farts who are, and I kind of have gray hair too. So it's going to be an old fart pitching a film about old farts.
Sure.
What's your take on that?
I think I'm 28, so I'm not too far from. Well, I guess it depends on when you go gray, but
So you're
I'm
saying
as young
you're
as you could get,
are
I
you saying
guess.
you're old for your age?
I think I think I'm young for my age because of my sister, like you mentioned. She's younger, so she's kept me young. I know.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about that. So what demographic? So yeah, what are you?
Am
We were
I
just
Gen
talking.
Z?
Yeah, Gen Z. What?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
what does
I'm
that mean? What does that mean? Again, I need help. I need help with all this stuff. I need to be able to talk demographic stuff to these
sure.
film
I
funders.
think I think young people and old people both care about generations a lot because old people, it's a good way to define, the group that's doing strange new peculiar young trends online,
Hmm.
and how that's weird and
It's a,
strange.
it's
And
an
then
it's an easy way of saying I don't really know anything about this, but I know that this generation of people are kind of doing that.
yeah, lots of lets you be Skinner, Simpson Skinner.
See, I don't know.
It's
That's
it's
a
uh
Gen Z
it's that moment where
reference.
no, the kids that are wrong. I'm not out of
I
it.
have no idea what you're talking
I
about.
don't even think I'm quoting that right. But and then with Gen Z, with the younger kids, I think because of TikTok and all that stuff, people got very into Gen. It's categorization. Everyone's really obsessed
So
with categorizing us.
so you're Gen Z, is that or Z in Canada?
Well, I'm 96, so I'm
96.
right between millennial and Gen Z.
And what did your sister call you earlier? You were
I
like,
I think she called me an in betweener, which I've
no,
never
it
seen that
wasn't. It
show.
was something else. I
It's a
thought she
joke.
said it was like a transitioner or something. But she's mouthing it from the other room. Uh, nah,
Cusp.
cusp.
That's it. Yeah, no, that people do say that. Not like a
A
ton,
cusper.
but yeah,
Okay,
because
so
I'm like,
you're neither nor.
yeah, I'm like old enough that I get jokes about Bill Clinton, but I'm young enough that when AOC was elected, I was like, whoa, she's just like me.
Okay, that's a good kind of frame of
Or
reference. So let's shift a little bit. So I showed you. Was that the first time I showed you Rachel's Ghost this morning?
I've like Googled her
Okay,
before because
because
obviously I knew you were making this movie, so I was like, what's going on?
all right. What was your initial reaction to watching this show? The YouTube channel that is.
Sure. I guess I'm online a lot, probably too much. So it seemed pretty familiar to a lot of stuff when you're like on Twitter at like, midnight, you're just scrolling through stuff and you get into kind of a rabbit hole and you find somebody like, a Twitch streamer or somebody that has like 200 views
Hmm.
and they're just kind of like,
Talking about
yeah,
about.
yes, kind of, they don't have a script. They don't
But
maybe
do
have too much media training and they're just kind of going off the cuff.
but do the people that you see are they what age are they?
Yeah, definitely younger.
They're younger. Okay.
Yeah, I
All right.
feel like
That's what I figured.
mid 20s, early 30s is most of.
So did you think it was surprising that this was largely like an older crew who were trying to make a go of a YouTube enterprise
No, I think it makes
show?
sense with record collecting because again, there are young people who are into record collecting. My sister is
I'll
into
cut that
record
out.
collecting.
I'll cut that out.
My sister's into record collecting. A lot of Gen Z are because every generation every once in a while sees older technology and goes, "Whoa, that actually looks pretty cool."
Hmm.
Compared to an iPhone or whatever. But still, it made sense to me that online record collecting and talking about record community is older.
So what would a younger audience find compelling about a documentary film about this YouTube channel?
Sure. I think um, her name is Karen?
Rachel
Rachel. I think that Rachel, as kind of like a person,
Karen.
is.
That's about you
Yeah,
can't
that
use
was.
that name.
Oh
What's
my
her name?
God.
Karen? Is she a Karen?
Might have been a
That's so bad. That's such an old.
Freudian slip.
Do you think anyone names their kid Karen now?
No, God, no. Yeah, you know.
We've
Um,
got 5 names on our list.
yeah, maybe if they're extremely not online and like haven't heard of
Well, that's true.
anything,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
but I think that her being a very big Trump supporter and being trans
A Trump
is,
supporter. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, is very interesting, and I've definitely seen a lot of trans right wing people and queer right wing people in the
Hmm.
past several years. It's
Where online? You mean?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Twitter,
So that's not
YouTube.
unusual then.
No,
And
it's well, it's this thing with I've heard people talk about this before, but like with left wing people and with like center Democratic liberal people, there can be a lot of infighting. There can be a lot of like, how on earth can you be gay and
yeah,
not think blank thing?
yeah,
And then on the right, um, if you are trans, if you're gay, if you're black, if you are like willing to be right wing enough or like hateful enough towards like if you're trans and racist, that's kind of huge for them because then it gives a they're able to like give more legitimacy
hmm
to other right wing creators. They can be like,
okay. So what you're saying is, so do you think your hypothesis
sure,
is okay? Let me run this by you. Is that some folks who identify as from marginalized communities, let's just put it like that, sometimes they'll play a part to amp up more outrageous or conservative far right views
yeah,
to try to kind of make a name for themselves in the conservative community. Is that what you mean?
yeah, of course, yeah. No, I think
You can also say stop putting words into my
no,
mouth.
I think
But
that's true. There's Candace Owens. There used to be Milo Yiannopoulos, although Milo Yiannopoulos was more the other side of the right wing,
mhm.
kind of queer blah 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 coin of he was just a troll. He was just like
Yeah.
I can say
Well,
the craziest stuff
yeah. I
and
get. Well, this is the other like theme of the one of the themes in the film, and we were talking about it earlier this morning over breakfast. Is that sometimes like it's hard to tell if people are acting or when they're acting,
mhm.
when they're amplifying their own personality, or when they're being authentic. And I'm using that word, excuse me, purposefully, right? Because it seems to me, to jump around a little bit here, like the Gen Z millennial types, generation. Sorry, shouldn't call you types.
Sure.
Was that was that a
No, I don't
slight
think
on
it's
you?
fine.
That that authenticity seems to be this value now that's being embraced by that generation. That kind of being fake is one of the to call someone, oh, you're so fake, or that person's really fake,
Yeah.
is a real slight, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. It's yeah, go ahead.
But does that translate onto YouTube, or or is it just kind of like, well, I know those people are being fake, or that person's being fake?
It's um in the past like 3 years I have personally felt like conversations about what is true on the internet have gotten really, really bad. Obviously, Trump kind of kickstarted that with his first term and the kind of constant lying about facts and all that stuff. But recently, I'll just see people like see a joke on the internet, like somebody joking about like
Mm-hmm.
this is extremely specific, but um, somebody's remaking the Odyssey coming up.
Yeah, yeah, I just
Is
saw
it
that.
Nolan?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Christopher Nolan. Yeah,
Christopher
yeah, I
Nolan
saw that
is
too.
doing a remake of the Odyssey,
Yeah.
and some like very young people were saying like, "Oh my god, this is based off something that's so old. I've never heard of the Odyssey," and
Mm-hmm.
obviously everyone was making fun of them.
Mm-hmm.
But like one person tweeted, "It's so convenient that the guy in the Odyssey is named Odysseus," and it's a very obvious joke. But I saw people being like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna crash out. I can't believe that this person doesn't know that," and it's such an obvious joke, and people don't see that. And that's also true with like opinions. You could say a political, like you can say a political opinion, and people will think that you're being like insincere, joking. Like I've just seen the level of comprehension, basic comprehension,
Mm-hmm.
drastically decrease personally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sorry, I
But if
forgot your
you're
question.
but if you're in a like if you're out having lunch or you're getting together with a bunch of your whatever high school friends after a number of years, you wouldn't mock someone for not or even tease them necessarily, right? To the degree that you see people doing it on the internet. Like
Mhm.
there's obviously a divide online and offline
Yeah,
around that kind of behavior, right? The way you talk to people, the way you kind of mock them. It's like, what? You don't know that? Like that's considered a little rude, right?
yeah, no, of course,
In
nobody.
interpersonal ways. But online, it seems to be kind of common practice, or at least it seems to be a routine phenomenon.
Yeah,
Correct?
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, what else we got? So we talked a little bit about demographics. Talked about generations, seniors on YouTube. What else did you want to talk about?
Um,
That's it.
what's the last record you got?
I think I actually I think I'm gonna do like a my best of 2024.
Oh, that's
Have you
fun.
heard of this thing called what's it called? Vinyl tags?
No, I don't. As a shameful member of this family, I don't collect records.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
That's really so. Should I mock you now,
go
or
ahead.
well, this
We're
is
in
just an
person, so you
audio
might not. Yeah.
podcast. Well, that's the other thing. Do people on audio podcasts do they mock each other as much as like kind of YouTube channels? I would say no, right?
No,
Because part of the quote unquote
I don't think they
thing
interact with each
is
other as
that
much.
you gotta look, you gotta see the visual cues,
Oh,
right?
interesting. Yeah.
As opposed to just the sound when we're just talking, it doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
I think we've come to the end of our podcast here. I'd like to thank my son.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Say some parting words.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Michael
No, it's like
Barbaro.
goodbye.
I'm Michael Barbaro. This is the end of the podcast.
Oh man, that
That
was
was not my best.
that.
Michael
No,
Barbaro.
that was okay. One more time. No, that's it. Sorry.
Oh.
No, I'm not. No, you had one chance, and that's it. Thank you to my son for joining me today. And as I said earlier, episode 7 will be coming up hopefully next week, and we'll talk a little bit more about soundtracks, about sound editing, sound mixing, all that great stuff. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button.
Yeah. No. Sure. Is there a like button in podcasts?
I don't
Where are you
know.
posting
I don't
this?
know.
No,
But you
you're posting this
subscribe.
on
People
YouTube.
subscribe.
The crazy thing about episode 7,
Yeah.
people don't know this. You go into a tirade about This American Life.
I don't know what that means. That was
Like
another.
you start a fight with a different podcast.
That was an and oh, is that no? I'm not going to do that. So make sure to give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. Leave me some comments if you're listening to this on YouTube or some other place that lets you, send me nasty notes, and we'll talk soon. See you later, guys.
Yes, they knew I'd be standing naked, and with the old duds now gone, I can come clean. This was not an ode to clothes or prose that's sacred. Babe, this whole thing was just a dirty trick to make you think of me naked. Seriously, though. Tell me.
So why are you joining the podcast now that it's over?
You said I think you're uncool or something like that. I don't think that.
So basically, you're coming in here after the podcast is over to correct the record.
Yeah, I'm afraid of having a presence on the internet, but I do think you're cool and I respect your project.
Thanks, everyone.